Now here's something strange. These are called texturing wheels. You put them into a rotary device such as a flex shaft or a Dremel, and as it spins, those steel spines will slam into the metal and give it a unique texture. These were sent to me by Gesswein, which is the primary place that I've been buying jewelry supplies from for well over a decade at this point. These come in 6 different flavors, each with their own level of intensity. The ones that I have here are on the 2 opposite ends of the spectrum, the yellow, which is the finest, and the black, which is the coarsest. The yellow wheel imparts a very fine satin finish that is very directional. It's hard to see on camera, but the way that the light catches it when you shift it back and forth is kind of reminiscent of silk. The black wheel, on the other hand, is a lot less subtle. This one gives a very rough, speckled look that kind of looks like glitter when you move it around the light, kind of like sandstone covered in glitter. I don't know, you figure it out, I'm not a rockologist. Now, since jewelry is meant to be worn, I also feel it's important to note how these feel. The fine texture feels smooth, but not polished. It's like rubbing your finger against printer paper, perhaps. Whereas the coarse texture feels rougher, almost like you're rubbing your finger against glitter-free sandstone. Short of investing in a sandblaster or a bead blaster, there aren't a ton of ways to get this kind of consistent surface finish on metal. There are various tumbling medias and pumice powders that can get close, but from what I've used, I really haven't been impressed thus far. Actually, while we're on the topic, it's hard to talk about these without comparing them to the finish that you would get with a sandblaster. They are similar in a lot of ways, but I would consider this a separate kind of finish within the same family tree, but maybe a few generations removed, and from the brush finish side of the family. I say that because these brushes create a series of directional lines by their very nature, and that's both a good thing and a bad thing. On the one hand, you need to be very conscious of what direction these lines are going in, but on the other, if done correctly, the finish has a lot more depth and sheen than a sandblasted finish would. Sandblasters and bead blasters offer a distinct advantage in that they can make a completely seamless finish with minimal effort, and they're a big time saver if you make things in large batches or if you work on a larger scale. But getting a sandblaster really isn't practical for a lot of people. First off, they are expensive. I only owned one because I worked at a company that was throwing one out, and I knew where they kept their dumpster key and how to dodge security. And then there's the matter of getting a compressor, which is a whole different thing. I use this old pancake compressor that I got secondhand, but the thing about cheap compressors is that they're very loud and not built to last. Depending on where you set up shop, you could be very limited on when you're allowed to run a machine that loud, if you're even allowed to run one at all. You can of course get quieter compressors, but be prepared to shell out quite a bit of money. Another problem is that sandblasting can warp softer and or thinner metals if you're not careful. This is especially problematic if you've just soldered something and therefore taken the metal up to annealing temperature. And then there's the fact that you need to wear a respirator so you don't inhale tiny glass shards, which is a bit of a problem in the summer because my studio space does not have air conditioning, and man do I hate the feeling of my hands inside those rubber gloves when it's that hot out. Either way, that's all just to say that I find these wheels to be a lot more convenient than using a sandblaster when I want to get that finish. I make small objects and I don't work in large batches anymore, so it's just a big hassle to go through all of that to sandblast one small thing that I'm working on. So yeah, needless to say, I like these wheels a lot. They sidestep all of those problems, and the best part is they're only around $30 each. You can find them on Gesswein's website by searching with the item number seen throughout this video, or if you just type in texture wheel, you'll find these along with variants from the same series that are different shapes and sizes. You can buy them individually or as a set of 6, and if you use my code WMV5 at checkout, you can get 5% off your entire order, or if you want, you could just make up your own code.